Hello, hello, hello. The mask is back, and this is actually a pretty good card. I mean, it was expected to be a pretty good card, like a 7 out of 10, and it delivered on that promise. I mean, some people were saying it was like a 3 or 4 out of 10. I disagree. You're probably just mad that you got most of your picks wrong, or maybe not most of your picks wrong, but like you probably got 6 out of 12. I got 9 out of 12. Now, don't get me wrong. Picks right isn't just the only reason why you should enjoy a fight card. Obviously, it's the fights that's number one. But you know, on my last card, even though it was mostly due to the fights being boring, Usman versus Buckley had a lot of like 7 out of 13 is not a good pick percentage if you ask me, and that's what I got there. So I had a lot of stinkers on that one. And granted, there were a few upsets on that card, but nevertheless, my point still stands. Probably lots of people got their picks wrong on this card because they're not as good as the Mask of MMA. What can I say? And that's probably why most people thought it was like a lackluster card, but it was actually really good. Lots of dominations on the main card, decent scraps and wars on the prelims, good competitive fights all around on the prelims, good jiu-jitsu, good boxing, good kickboxing, scraps, wars, you name it, you got it. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever you want, you got it here. And let's just jump into it. Hamdi Abdel Wahab and Muhammad Usman. I'm gonna say no. Why am I acting like I'm predicting this? No, Muhammad Usman in the second and third round, he had like a really good jab, and it was mostly to the body, but sometimes he'd come upstairs, especially with the combos afterwards. He kind of looked like Slick Mick out there. I mean, he kind of learned from his performance against Slick Mick, I think. I mean, it almost looked like they trained with each other, to be honest. I don't think so, but, he did kind of look like Slick Mick out there instead of Mo the Motor, The Goater, some would call him now after this performance. Absolutely goated performance against another goat in some regards, and maybe the weight department, we could say, or the punching bag goat. Hamdi Abdel Wahab. I mean, he was mostly just throwing an overhand right, especially in the first round. I mean, that's all he was really throwing. And yes, he did catch Muhammad Usman coming in with an overhand, or maybe he was coming in with overhand in the first round. Either way, and it did rock Muhammad Usman in the first round. In the second and third, though, Muhammad Usman got his footing, even though he didn't really. He kind of just was still very bouncy and jittery and twitchy. And that was probably due to his, octagon jitters not being in there for like what, a year or 2 years, something like that. And he was on a two-fight loss streak in the first fight of the card. He might have been cut after this if he didn't win. So definitely a good performance from Muhammad Usman. Mostly jabs to the body. Sometimes he throw out some kicks to the legs. I forget if he did to the body. I think he landed a couple there, maybe not, but I know he threw out a couple kicks there to the legs. Nothing really disabilitating, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I don't know if that's right. I think it's debilitating, disabilitating, something like that. Either way, good performance from him. I'm surprised that only 35% picked him. Shows how good the Mask of MMA's picks are. I'm telling you, the GOAT of MMA. You gotta listen. And then Azat Maxim and Tagir Bekov. Azat Maxim, I mean, listen, people were overrating this performance from Azat Maxim. It was a good performance, but it was a 29-28 Tagir Bekov, arguably a 30-27. On my first watching, I gave this a 30-27 Tagir, and I could see the Azat Maxim winning one of the rounds. Honestly, any of the rounds on it are quite toss up-y. I know that's not a word, but any of them were quite toss-up-y. They were quite like 50-50. And I personally thought that round one was the most clear to gear. I'm surprised that a lot of people actually gave as at the first round. And the second round was also quite competitive, but it was a pretty clear one to gear as well. The third one is honestly, in my opinion, the debatable one. In a round where there was not a lot of going on, the big takedowns were landed from Azat, and even though I don't really rate those takedowns when they're not really slams, like really huge, from the shoulder, like Murad Devalish really slamming Henry Cejudo, it wasn't really like that. So I don't really value the takedowns, and so I still give it 30-27, but at least 29-28 for Tagir Ulanbekov here. As that Maxim was mostly just whiffing on the 1-2s, and when they did land, yes, they were more powerful, they were more impactful, but I definitely favor the guy who lands about 5 1-2s to a 1-1-2, you know? If you're landing 5-1, which it felt like Tagir was, with that awkward team Khabib head movement missing or whiffing or dodging, I guess, a lot of Asat Maxim shots and landing a lot more of his own, I definitely favor that awkward head movement, come back with a counter 1-2 type of style that Tagir had. And don't get me wrong, Asat Maxim's like that top 20 level. He's definitely good. He had a competitive scrap against Tagir, but I don't rate Tagir that highly either. Like, I think Manel Cap could arguably beat him. I think Absu Almabayev could get to a split decision with him. Like, Tagir's decent, but he's not even got a lot more time left to improve. He's 33, almost 34. I don't see a huge future potential for Tagir. Like, Muhammad Mokaev is basically what Tagir could have been if he started earlier, I think. Um, and he even had Team Habib, but it's still not enough to be a future title contender, if you ask me. And then Irina Alexeyeva and Claudia Silva. This was actually, or Segula. This was actually a decent scrap for a women's MMA fight. Claudia Segula was just a much more technical fighter, and I thought that Irina Alexeyeva, with her terrible fundamentals, would just be able to land the more significant shots. But clearly, at the lower levels of women's MMA, fundamentals matter more than at the top, since Juliana Pena beat Amanda Nunes with no skill, no fundamentals whatsoever. And she got her with a phantom choke that wasn't even in, that didn't exist. So, I mean, look, it seems like lower level women's MMA actually is more technical than the highest level. I mean, that is women's MMA in a nutshell. But I mean, at least Claudia Segula looked good doing it. And Daria, similar situation, Daria Zelenchiakova versus Melissa Mullins. Similar situation, although Melissa Mullins was a little more scrappy, a little more competitive. Daria Zelenchiakova was the much more technical kickboxer at range, and Melissa Mullins was the much more aggressive. She was the more, I would say, physically imposing in there, although not by much, to be honest, actually, because in attributes they're pretty even, but Melissa Mullins had a little more girth and she was definitely going after it more than a Daria Zelenshikova. She was more so on the back foot. But overall, it was, again, like I said, an impressive performance from both of these girls, Claudia and Daria, and they both looked good doing it. And Junyoung Park versus Ismail Nurdiev. We got the Iron Turtle shooting out these Koopa Shell bombs from his hands, okay? He's out here doing 30-20s on these guys. He's dominating from pillar to post. He's getting 10-7 rounds every round. No, but I'm trolling a little bit here, but it was a good performance from him. Pretty obvious pick, I felt, for Junyoung Park to get the decision. The thing with Ismail Nurdiev is, like I said in the prediction video, he has pretty decent hands in the first round, and aside from that, he has kicks. And once it gets out the first round, he's not that good. He has a few kicks in the second and third round, and then he tries to smudge you on the fence. And once he had none of that, it was Jung Park kind of smudging him and bullying him, which for a undersized middleweight, let's be honest, he sure as whatever you want to say could make like welterweight. I mean, GSP was 5'10", and people could say that he could make lightweight these days. So, I mean, listen, Jung Park, he's not that physically imposing, so the fact that he was able to put the pressure on Ismail Nurdiev, it just shows how good he is truly, and he's just a really technical, fast, sharp guy. Now, like I said, the problems that I said in my prediction video were there. He didn't have good defense. He never does. But he's fast and he comes back at you. And against a guy like Ismail Nurdiev who doesn't have a lot of pop, not even as much as Brad Tavares as we saw there, it's not gonna work out well for Ismail Nurdiev. And I knew that at the very least at the third round he would fold, and he did. But in the second round he also did, after illegally kneeing Jungyoung Park in the head. And 2 point deduction was great. It was a clear shutout, 10-7 in the second round. I dominated him. I absolutely dominated. That's what he's thinking right now after the beautiful performance. Or maybe not right now because it's Thursday now. But Oban Elliott got a fraud check, and it was against Ko. He didn't KO him, but KO got the decision, which is quite contradictory to KO's name. No, but really, I mean, Sekyong Ko had a really good performance. To be honest, this whole like build up to the fight, in the fight week, he actually had this like aura about him, and I was kind of like, wait a minute, he's like kind of mogging Oban Elliott in the stare downs. He just looked much more physically imposing, and then in the ring, I was like, okay, wait a minute, can I switch my pick? That's immediately what I thought, but unfortunately, I can't. And with this one, I mean, I was kind of going with the crowd. I hadn't watched Sekion KO. I haven't seen him KO anyone in the regional scenes, and that's maybe because he only has like 4 KOs. So I mean, how can I trust his KO power, as the name suggests? But I mean, he's calling himself the Korean Tyson as well, but he didn't really need to do that. He actually showed grappling here. I mean, I didn't really know what his game was because, like I said, I didn't really watch him. I mostly watched Oban Elliott get smashed in this fight, and yeah, it wasn't really pretty. I mean, Oban Elliott just didn't give him anything to worry about, and he kind of just got mogged in wrestling. Like he looked like he was a 155 or two out there. These South Korean guys, they're kind of just mogging these other guys here. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than they were just getting smushed. They were just getting smothered. Cameron Smotherman, okay? And then Mohamed Naima versus Bogdan Gurad. Yeah, I mean, this was a pretty lackluster performance from Mohamed Naimov. I mean, he was doing the bare minimum. One thing I'll say though is he certainly looks like he has short arms. I don't know what it is. He definitely doesn't have 70-inch arms. It has to be like 65 inch. He looks like he has the shortest arms I've ever seen in my life. Bogdan Gorad, he looked improved, certainly. If you look at his performance before this, in that fight, he was literally like he had like the worst defense I've seen in my life. In this fight, he actually looked like he improved his fundamentals with his boxing, with his kickboxing to get inside on those takedowns. And he actually landed some good takedowns, which was impressive because I definitely thought that he would be outmuscled and outgunned and outsized overall in this fight. And it would just be like, oh, not he's not got the physical attributes to win this, but he actually did okay for himself. It's just that those grappling sequences didn't get him to any advantageous positions. Like if he got to the back, I'd be like, and it was like a real back take, I'd be like, okay, now we're talking. Give him that round. But he only really won round two off of just being a little more busy, I would say. And aside from that, Muhammad Naimov did prove me right. He was a little more technical. He kept things on the feet where it needed to, and he was reversing positions where Bogdan Grad was getting a little reckless. And now we have the really good stuff. Muhammad Naimov, I mean, whoa, what? That was the last fight. Nazim Sadiqov and Nicholas Mota. This was a banger. This was actually my fight of the year so far, I would say. Now we have Nicholas Mota here, who obviously isn't that good, and he definitely has some really good ferocity to his strikes. He has some good hooks, good uppercuts. Um, but Nazim Siddiqov had better uppercuts. You saw in the second round when he was pushing Nicholas Mota back, and he was just doing uppercuts a lot on the guard. Those eventually fatigued the arms, and he was eventually pushing back when Nicholas Mota was gassed after throwing that like 75 punch combo, it was something like that. Now, Nazim Siddiqov definitely didn't like it because whether it's to your arms or to the body or to the head, all those strikes are gonna impact you in some way, shape, or form. That is gonna fatigue you, but he definitely showed a grit to him. And Nazim Sadiqov, he's one of my favorite fighters now. I have to say this. These guys coming out of that Sarah Longo gym, aside from like Aljamain Sterling, who is a bit of a decision merchant, who is a bit, he does have a good long rangey jab, but aside from that, he doesn't really entertain that much. He has a he had a good little scramble fest against Movsar Evloev, but aside from Aljamain Sterling, I think that Sarah Longo gym just has some really exciting fighters like a Marab, like a Nazim Sadiqov. I mean, these guys use grappling and their striking, and they mix it in beautifully. They're just gritty. I mean, they're really made for the sport. Nazim Sadiqov against Vyacheslav Borshev had a great, wonderful war. Um, Nazim Sadiqov versus, he dominated Terrence McKinney. There was another fight in between, I think, this and Vyacheslav Borshev that I'm forgetting. He's had like 3 wars in recent memory, and they've all been insanely good and so underrated, and nobody has been talking about them until this one. People are finally giving him the respect he deserves, and I mean, yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite fighters. It doesn't matter about like anything else about him. You look at the fight style and you know this guy is in for a war. He's in for a scrap, and he if he's not one of your favorite fighters, you're probably a casual. I just got to be honest. That term gets thrown around a lot, but it doesn't get thrown around enough in my opinion. If I'm being completely honest, there's way too many casuals. And Mittebek Orobot, I mean, you look at the freaking polls on the UFC channel, for example, like UFC 317, who do you have? Charles or Ilya? Um, on Tabology, lots of people are, it's like 80-90% of people are picking Ilya. This is much more of a hardcore sort of fan base here. But then you look at the freaking YouTube poll and it's like 53% are picking Ilya. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, there's just people that watch TikTok reels, YouTube reels, whatever, Instagram reels, wherever it's called these days, okay? All these youngsters, whatever these youngsters use these days. Um, and they watch the highlights and they don't actually watch the real fights on the prelims. I mean, that was a main card fight too, you know. So it's like I don't get it. I don't get why Nassim Siddiqov doesn't get the respect he deserves, but now he should. Tafik Musafayev and Mitabek Orolbai. I mean, this was just a no-brainer. I mean, I picked decision because, you know, I just didn't know how good Tafik is. I saw that he had quit in him, but I thought that maybe he would like I don't know. I thought he'd be a little more gritty. I thought that he would I mean he was pretty gritty, but it's just that Mitubek Oralbai is so much more technical on the ground. And he showed actually some pretty good strength advantage. Now he did take this at catch weight and he showed on the weigh-ins that he was 2 pounds more heavy than Tafik Musafayev. So the fact that he took it up to catch weight and Tafik Musafayev probably took that on like half as much time as he got to prepare for the fight initially. The catch weight was a complete switch up, and Mitabek Oralbai certainly wanted to use his physicality as he went for the takedown immediately, and then he got the Kimura, I believe it was. Let me just double check, yeah. So listen, it was a good performance, absolutely. And when he actually goes out there and imposes his will, as Lucas Tracy likes to say, he could do some great things in the division. I just think that Tafik Musafayev, for example, like perfect example of a guy who's tailor-made for Mitabek Oralbai to win here. Again, I wasn't I only saw his like Bellator stuff, so I wasn't sure if Mitabek was just gonna steamroll him. So I just said, oh, it's gonna be a close competitive decision because Tafik Musafayev is gonna stay at range and try and be safe and stay safe. But this dude literally throws kicks like it's nobody else's business, and they're super easy for him to pick to catch. The reason why a guy like Mateusz Ranbetsky had a field day with him, a field day with Oralbai, is because he only threw overhands and some straight punches. He threw hooks, overhands, and straight punches. He threw no kicks, so it was much harder for Mitabek to actually get in on the takedowns. So he was forced to strike with him. Well, against Tafik Musafayev, he was throwing so many kicks that were so easy for Mitabek to catch. So Tafik was constantly getting thrown down to the ground, and he was getting out muscled to a Kimura, and it was so easy these transitions. It was like Tafik didn't even know what was happening. So I mean, I think he's going to have a rough time in the UFC. I'm going to be honest. This was a really good performance from Mitabek, although, let's be honest, there are some asterisks to it, especially the catch weight and it being a guy outside the UFC and a short notice thing, I'm pretty sure as well. But anyway, Rizvan Kuniev, Curtis Blades. I honestly scored this to Rizvan Kuniev. I think you could score it to Curtis Blades. It's not a robbery per se, but I definitely thought that Rizvan won the third round. I understand that Curtis Blades threw more strikes in the third round, and he landed more strikes in the third round. But we got to look at the impact. We got to look at what was closer to ending the fight, right? And I feel like the effectiveness on that round was to Rizvan Kuniev. He was landing these big bombs even in the third round. The second round was mostly what he was landing, and that's why people thought that this was a clear robbery in the third round because people were saying what was actually happening in the second round more so. Although there was some of that stuff this big fast boxing combinations in the third round as well. It was much more of Curtis Blades stalling on the fence, landing some little pitter pat shots, some knees, some little hooks, and some straight shots in the guard, trying to land some elbows if he could. Listen, it was mostly Rezvan in the second and third rounds. You could make the argument for Curtis Blades for sure. I'm glad I got it right, and I do think that It's not crazy to give this to Curtis Blades. Like I said, this one's not a robbery. I genuinely thought that the third round was pretty freaking close. But man, Rizvan Kuniev showed some really good boxing combinations. Definitely not a Sergey Pavlovich. Definitely not a Waldo Cortez Acosta. But he's gotten into the top 15 with this performance now that John Jones is gone. So I mean, I think he deserves it. He definitely showed that he is, like I said in my prediction video, he is top 10 material. It's just showing though how shallow the heavyweight division is right now. I mean, if you got a debut guy, just showing why he's a top 10 guy. But anyway, Fiziev and Bahamondes. I can't believe people were really saying that this is a terrible game planning from either guy. Rafael Fiziev was landing beautiful body shots, beautiful takedowns, even headshots at moments, especially early on in the fight. Beautiful straight punches down the pipe. His right hand landed in the second round beautifully when Ignacio was going for a kick and it dropped him beautifully. Very satisfying to watch performance from Rafael Fiziev. Absolute domination. I was telling you guys, you just need fast combinations and close to light up Ignacio. He leans forward, so it's easier for him for shorter guys to land on the head to land upstairs than a guy like a Joel Alvarez who stands up tall and long. And he makes it really hard for you to hit him on the head. You have to really go for the body and then upstairs. And Rafael Fiziev was kind of doing that in this fight as well, but it's certainly easier to do that than against a Jalen Turner or a especially Joel Alvarez in the lightweight division. And listen, I thought that this was an amazing underdog. I'm very surprised at this being a 50-50 at people picking Ignacio Bahamondes as much as they did. Like Ignacio Bahamondes is this amazing striker. He's good 100%, but Fiziev just showed levels in the striking, in the grappling, in the wrestling. I'm gonna beat him in the striking, in the wrestling, in the grappling. He's just he really showed levels out there, and the takedowns I knew he had in his pocket. I even said I literally predicted this fight to a T. I said he could even go for the takedowns if he wanted to. Ignacio Bahamondes is weak off the ground. He's weak off bottom. This is literally like Ludovic Klein versus Ignacio Bahamondes 2.0. I can't believe that people were saying that this was like a terrible game plan from Ignacio Bahamondes. Maybe Fiziev is actually really good on the striking, so him going for a guillotine when he knew that he was down 2 rounds wasn't actually a dumb idea. Maybe he thought, oh wait a minute, I'm down on this fight right now. I gotta actually try and finish this fight. And I understand that guillotines don't finish people at the highest level of MMA anymore, but I mean, come on, it's like you gotta take what you could get in this sort of situation against an Iron Chin Rafael Fiziev. For the most part, Iron Chin, I should say. I mean, yes, he was eating a few 1-2s in the second and third round, but for the most part, he was coming back with beautiful, ripping body shots, hooks, and uppercuts. And then he also came upstairs with a few 1-2s of his own, and he was constantly leaning back with those. Nobody was talking about his freaking lean back that he did 8 times in this fight, like in the Matrix, that he did against Mark Jacasey when the head kick was coming up. He avoided it like 8 times. That has to be talked about. I mean, such a wonderful performance from Rafael Fiziev. I love to see him back in uh back in winning ways. Even though I thought that he should have won his last 3 losses anyway. It's just circumstances. It's just those Justin Gaethje fights were razor close, and he broke his knee or knee popped it blew out. He blew his knee on a what was a Gamrot, yeah. And then we have Rountree and Jamal Hill. I mean, yeah, this was a pretty obvious performance. Very satisfying domination. A perfect display of Muay Thai and MMA from Khalil Rountree Jr. Very satisfying to see. I mean, Jamal Hill, he's stuck in the mud. If you actually just zoom in on his footwork and his footwork only in all of his fights, it doesn't look good. It really doesn't. There are a few moments where it looks kind of sort of okay, but I mean, that's only when he's on the front foot. I'm just freaking rapping at this pace, it feels like. No, but I mean, Jamal Hill was like, he looks like a penguin out there, if I'm being honest. He's super flat-footed. He literally walks forward at you sometimes. He twists his feet. I mean, I have better footwork than Jamal Hill, and that's not a good sign if you're main eventing a fight night in the UFC, okay? That is horrible. I'm glad that I picked Khalil Rountree. Bedtime MMA. Do your research next time, okay, buddy? Okay, buddy. I mean, look, he's bragging about that he got most of his fights right on this card, but he didn't do better than Mask of MMA, okay? Get it right. Get it right. The GOAT is here, okay? The matchmaking goat, you could take that. You could take that title, okay? You could be the matchmaking goat all day, but the picks, come on. It goes to me. I mean, Khalil Rountree, the one thing I didn't expect here, though, is the cardio. He was definitely showing. I mean, Khalil Rountree showed in multiple moments he could have finished the fight when he wanted to, and it wasn't necessarily a cardio thing necessarily, I guess, but he was really showing that he wanted to go to the full distance. That's what it showed in this fight. Khalil Rountree could have finished this fight in certain moments. I truly believe that if he actually went for these blitzes like he did before, there were many opportunities to blitz in after Khalil Rountree butchered those legs, like I said he would perfectly to a T in my prediction video. Um, there were many moments where he could have went for those standing hammer fists, those huge winding hooks and overhands and uppercuts that he was just brutalizing Jamal Hill with when he actually went for it, when he heard the word go, he did it, you know, he actually did the job of brutalizing Jamal Hill. But in the fight, I mean, you could just tell he was like slowing down at moments. He was like trying to regain his energy. He was actively making sure, okay, this is my first 5 rounds main event. I've been asking for 5 round main events before, and against Alex Pereira, I wasn't able to make the distance. This time, you could tell he was making a conscious effort in his mind to actually go the full distance and to experience it for himself and to, you know, finally actually showcase his full skill set through the course of 5 rounds to sort of show why he is deserving of that possible number one contenders fight next. And I think that we should skip Carlos Ulberg next. I mean, that was a beautiful performance. Give him Yuri Prohaska. Give him Magomed. Give him Magomed. No, but give him Yuri. That would be a great fight. I would slightly lean Khalil, but I mean Yuri, he's so good. He's got beautiful head movement and 1-2s. Only thing is the kicks I worry about. Khalil Rountree wasn't using kicks too much against Anthony Smith, so it could be a you know, maybe it's a respect thing. Maybe he didn't respect Anthony Smith in that fight, and maybe that's why. But you know, I don't know. That's a tough one to pick. But yeah, I mean, he had a beautiful domination, 50-44. Third round should have been the 10-8. He dropped him twice, and also he rocked him in numerous occasions in that round. He landed a good knee. He landed some good punches on the cage, almost dropping Jamal Hill for a third time. It looked like he stumbled into the cage for a moment in that third round from a good combo or a good, just solid one punch from Khalil Rountree Jr. So yeah, that should have been a 10-8. And the fact that Jamal Hill was acting shocked, I mean, I'm just sick of this like, oh, I'm the best type of act. Like this, like you're little bro, you're not Rose Namajunas, okay? You're not you're not freaking Fluke Sakeo to get the belt back type of fighter. I mean, look, your run to the belt was a fluke, but it wasn't like Rose, okay? You're not gonna get the comeback like you think you are. And not with that freaking penguin footwork, okay? Not with that Doolittle footwork. Doolittle. Isn't that like I think that's a penguin as well. I mean, yeah, that was not good from Jamal Hill. I mean, he's got good boxing when he actually lets it go, but when he gets kicked up like that, you can't really go, can you, against a guy like Khalil, Warhorse, Roundtree Jr. Khalil's a good fighter. I mean, he's one of my favorites as well, I would say at this point. He's really fun to watch. He's flashy and, you know, he drops people. That's what Guru was complaining about against Marab for Marab. He was like, "Oh, he doesn't drop people. You're not gonna get to see those knockdowns. You're not gonna see to get those violent moments." But then he complains when he actually does get it. I mean, come on, look, I like the Guru. I really do. He's a great fighter. I love to fight him. No, I wouldn't, but really, he's actually my inspiration for this channel. But I mean, I just I couldn't his reaction to this card was just baffling. Anyway, that's my reaction to Khalil Rountree Jr. versus Jamal Hill, UFC Baku. Actually, pretty good card. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Mask of MMA out.